David Katz, CEO of Global Security Group. David, they've recovered the weapon and now an image of the suspect from the FBI, a person they're calling a person of interest, has been released. How close do you think authorities are in nabbing this guy?
I think very close. I was doing a lot of media last night, and I said this is going to be old-fashioned police work. It's going to be look at all the cameras, look at the access, egress, and not only the building cameras, but we live in a society that, I mean, who doesn't have a camera or video camera on their phone? Everyone. So they're pouring through all the stationary cameras. They're going through every single bit of footage that neighborhood ring cameras have, or bystanders or passersby would have, and going through that. And that's how they got this guy's photo. And now they're circulating it. And someone knows who this person is. And I'd be very surprised if they haven't really narrowed it down to an identification yet.
And the $100,000 reward, that could also make a difference here.
I mean, certainly people, would be motivated to some extent by the reward, but I think people want to do the right thing. This was a heinous, despicable, contemptible act by a coward who will be brought to justice. And I think people, for the most part, are going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
David Kirk was killed with a single shot from a relatively long distance. A single shot, though. What does that tell us beyond the fact that this was a deliberate, heinous and calculated act?
Well, I've heard reports that they're saying that the distance was 200 meters. I think it's less. I think you're correct. It's probably 130, 140 meters, which for a rifle with a scope is an extremely average. A person with just a modicum of firearms ability will make that shot every day with that rifle, especially if you're lying down and your weapon is braced. So that's not a particularly difficult shot to make.
Wow. Okay. Well, does it also tell us that maybe this political assassination, if you will, had been in the works for some time? A lot of planning, it seems, went into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I think the first inclination would be, yeah, there's some planning involved, but how much planning really would it take to take a look at that area, especially if you were familiar with the location ahead of time? If you did, you just need to get basically a perch on top of the roof. So maybe the surveillance or the pre-planning involved, okay, how do I get from the street level as unseen as possible to the stairwell up in the building and on the roof? But as far as planning it out, I don't know. I mean, a few very amateur mistakes. Leaving the weapon for discovery, leaving apparently they have footprints, they have palm prints, they have an elbow print. So I mean, I could go either way on that one. I think some planning clearly was involved, but this certainly wasn't, months and months of planning in the works.
Our correspondent Jim Spellman touched upon this a little bit. Targeted political violence, certainly not related to one side of the aisle. Kirk, Donald Trump himself, and we've seen it among Democrats as well. Are we seeing a political are we reaching new alarming levels, David, when it comes to these types of attacks and political violence?
Well, I would take issue with that in one respect. Are there crazies and violent individuals on both sides of the political spectrum? Yes, but on the left in this country, they have institutionalized it. This is a part of academia. If you look at who is hounding students and making them hide in libraries, it's the left. Who is rioting and burning? That's the left. Are there crazies on the right side? Yes, but I think making an equivocation is a mistake, because if you go online, I've had the extreme displeasure to look today at social media where a lot of leftists were gleefully rejoicing at this murder. I have no words.
So I'm assuming you agree.
So
you agree with Donald Trump because he blamed Kirk's attack on the radical left. We don't know anything at this point.
Well, I think we do. I think we have. If the reports are true, and I started hearing them last night, there were markings on both the rifle and the ammunition which were politically which were ideological in nature. So I think we know at least at this point, and of course the nature of the victim. So I think at this point we have a very strong suspicion, and I think rightfully so, that this particular attack was a political assassination by someone with a leftist ideology.
But David, do you think words matter in these sort of situations? I mean, we have someone who has lost his life in a terrible, terrible attack. Trump blaming the radical left. Based on our conversation, you're as well. But Trump has also targeted many Democratic leaders with really ugly and personal words. He's gone after Senator Adam Schiff of California, calling him an enemy from within. He's described Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, as evil, sick, and crazy. I mean, are these kinds of words and personal attacks and name calling really helpful, or does it seems to only fuel the toxic rhetoric and deep polarization we're dealing with it in this country?
Yeah, I don't particularly care for name calling on either side. I mean, if you want to talk about names, the names they throw at President Trump are just, I mean, to list them would be a whole show. But I mean, I agree with you. I think that is no place in the political arena. But unfortunately, we have politicians who talk about get in their faces, don't let them eat a meal, don't let them breathe, don't let them sleep. And with respect to someone like Charlie Kirk, who is so influential, and the horrible thing is, if you listen to Mr. Kirk's um, uh, statements, he's always going on record to say, look, when we stop talking to each other, when we stop looking at each other as human beings with just different points of view, that's when violence starts. And I think that's where we are now, where we're not listening. I have many people in my personal circle have political ideas that are far different from my own. We we're not going to blows. And unfortunately, it's at the point now where political divisiveness is so intense that it's promoting this type of incident. And I think more importantly, if somebody is mentally unstable to begin with, and they feel that some of their thoughts and ideologies have a home and then can have a target, I think that's self-validating, and that's what I think is happening here.
All right, we'll leave it there. David Katz, thank you.
Thank you.